Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of F Train Live. And yeah, another great day in the life of Matt Canty, and just so grateful and happy and blessed that I get to spend this amazing day with all of you. Um, yeah, not a whole lot going on. My dad's upstairs cooking some food for us, so that's really cool. And yeah, you know, went and worked out a little bit earlier, so got that out of the way. And yeah, not a whole lot planned for the rest of the day. Still waiting to hear back on the fitness desk attendant job, so we'll see about that. Should be pretty interesting. Um, Looking forward to hearing back from them because I think that would be a great job for me. I think I would really excel at that in that field in that area. Um, but yeah, life is going really well for me. I'm really happy. I'm been sober now for 90 some days, and it just feels really good to have that continued sobriety and kind of just grow, come more and more confident that I'll be able to sustain it. Um, and yeah, so last episode we talked a little bit about history. So I think I'll kind of continue that trend. So I like sitting down and talking about history with you guys. It just really kind of stimulates my brain in a good way. Um, so yeah, let's talk about some more about American history. So the first kind of permanent colony was came over on the Mayflower, and they settled here. Um, and basically kind of just set up on the East Coast, and they were they were trying to get away from England because England wasn't letting them practice their religion that they wanted to. So they were like, "Sayonara, England. We want to practice the religion we want. We want to worship God the way we want to worship God, not how you want us to worship God, basically." Um, And so they got on a boat and sailed all the way over here to the North American continent. And yeah, they settled here, and that's kind of how America as we know it today kind of developed. There are, there was kind of the Lost Colony in North Carolina. I've actually seen a play based on those events. It's called The Lost Colony, ironically, and yeah, it's really very interesting play, really entertaining. Or I think, yeah, play, not musical play. So yeah, it's a really interesting play. Uh, Highly recommend um, going out to see that. And yeah, so there are also some accounts of Vikings, like um, Scandinavian people coming over from the Europe and kind of uh, not settling but exploring lands in northern North America, kind of like Canada, that region. So there's some accounts of that. That would be like the earliest, technically the earliest settlers, but one most people kind of focus on is the Mayflower settlers who settled on the East Coast. I think like I want to say maybe Virginia area. The Virginia, maybe, yeah, it's somewhere on the East Coast, basically. Um, and then yeah, we all. So then the more and more people started to come over because they heard about how great life was, or like how many opportunities there were in this new land. And so they started coming over in boats more and more and starting their own settlements. We met up with the Native Americans, um, And yeah, the Native Americans were like wanted to help us, but were like kind of. It turns out they were afraid for good reason because we pretty much destroyed their people. With where whether it was there's a pretty good book I haven't read yet, but I've heard of it. It's called like Germs, Guns, and Steel, and I think it kind of dives into that a little bit. But yeah, excuse me. So yeah, we're interacting with the Native Americans, trading with them. They're teaching the Mayflower residents and the other settlements, I'm sure too, like how to farm and how to make their crops grow better. And they actually used a method of farming that involved throwing a dead fish into the hole with the seed that was going to grow. So they would throw the dead fish in there with the seed, and the fish acted as a sort of natural fertilizer for the crops, and helped them grow a lot better than they normally would without the dead fish. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I always thought that yeah, like the Native Americans were really like a lot smarter than us Europeans in a lot of ways because they just were very much one with the land and knew how to respect the land a lot more. And the greedy Europeans were always just trying to take as much as they could from the land and use use the land as much as they could to basically make their lives better and better and better. It was never enough for us. But yeah, so colonies start spreading out on the east coast. Eventually, 13 colonies develop, and those 13 colonies, all the way just on the east coast. So you have states like Rhode Island was one, Virginia, uh, North Carolina, South Carolina. Yeah, I want to say Georgia, maybe New York. That's a pretty easy one. I think New Jersey, maybe. But yeah, so anyway, there was 13 colonies that spread out on the East Coast, and you know, they are trading with each other. Life is pretty awesome, and um, while this is all happening, like Great Britain is uh, fighting with France for like territory in the the new land, the newfound, the new world. They called it New World, fighting for territory in the New World, and yeah, Britain ends up winning, and I want to say, and so yeah, they win most of the territory in the New World, thanks to kind of teaming up with the Native Americans. It was either I want to say the British teamed up with the Native Americans. I'll have to look back. It's been a while since I've studied this, but yeah. So the British teamed up with was it the French? I can't remember. It's confusing me, but somebody teamed up with the Native Americans, and they were fighting the other party and what have you. Um, and yeah, so that while the colonies are developing, Britain and France were fighting a war, and I want to say Britain. Man, does British? I think Britain ends up winning, but like at like a pretty severe cost. Like they end up losing a lot of like money and not like losing money, but like spending a lot of money. And so that leads me to the next point. Because Great Britain, has spent all this money on this war, they're like, colonies, you got to pay up. We want our fair share of we want what's due, because you guys are enjoying this great life here. Um, you guys got to give back and help us out. And we here in America were like, we were like, no, that's not happening. Like we, and I think that's, and just as an aside, it's an interesting thing. Like we always thought like, oh, Great Britain was super evil and was overtaxing us and yada yada. But I mean, if you think about it, like we we were experiencing this great life in America. It would kind of only be right that we kind of paid our fair share, but because Great Britain was, they were sending over a lot of soldiers that like protected us from Native American attacks and stuff like that. So I don't know. There's definitely an argument for both sides. It's hard to say who was right and who was wrong. Yeah, because like I mean, but so like stereotypically you would think like, oh yeah, America was right, and we we want America to win, and um, America is the best kind of thing. But if you think about it, Great Britain had some valid reasons for wanting some money back, right? So, but long story short, we were like, we said no, no, thank you. We don't want to pay, and so we decided to start the Revolutionary War. And so we all know about the Revolutionary War. I'm sure everyone learned about it in school. Um, but yeah, so basically the 13 colonies all got together at I forget the name of it, but like they get together in Virginia or something, and basically have like they have a bunch of conferences, and and Thomas Jefferson, he he drafts the Declaration of Independence, which basically the Declaration of Independence said, okay, Great Britain, we're out. We don't want to be a part of your society anymore. Your conglomerate of nations. We're going to become our own nation. And so we draft that Declaration of Independence up and send it on over to Great Britain. Um, and Great Britain gets it, and they're like, we're not having any of that. We're gonna fight you guys. Um, excuse me. We're gonna fight you guys for control of North America, or control of the United States of America, not yet the United States, so let's say control of the 13 colonies. And so we fight this war. Plenty of battles are fought. A lot of interesting people come out of there. Like, see, like that phrase: if somebody calls you a Benedict Arnold, that's not good. You don't want to be a Benedict Arnold, because he betrayed the United States. So he was so a lot of the U.S. commanders were former British commanders, and so they the so like Benedict Arnold, he was commanding. He was working with the colonies, and was like pretty high ranking general, very very important guy, but he was secretly working with the British, and then we found out that he was like a double agent, and then we were like, we kind of cast him out, and we're like, no, you can't be a part of the 13 colonies anymore. You can't be part of the USA anymore. Um, and so, yeah, like Benedict Arnold was part of the U.S., but he was secretly working for the Great Britain. We found out, kicked him out, and then yeah, um, we all know George Washington. He was the first president of the United States of America, and he was at that time like the number one honcho in the military. He commanded all the forces in the military, and um, yeah, he was really important. Everyone loved George Washington. George Washington was like the most famous guy. Like to compare him, he could be comparable to like Barack Obama. Like people loved this guy. Like they really loved this guy. And so I know a lot of people didn't like Barack, but like you know what I'm saying. Like generally well received, generally well received guy. So yeah, George was everyone loved George, and George um, crossed the we all know that the famous picture of George Washington, like, oh yeah, crossing the Delaware. He crossed the Delaware, right? Because they needed to win some battle first or something against the British in order to keep the war going. I want to say that's right. Don't quote me on that, but yeah. So there's that famous painting of George crossing the Delaware, and I think that's the name of the painting is Crossing the Delaware. And so he is pictured there, standing triumphantly on his boat, and the Yankees are around him, and yeah, and so George crosses the Delaware with the Yankees, wins that battle. Um, he's just total beast mode. But yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so we got the Revolutionary War. We got some pretty important characters coming out of that. Like Thomas Jefferson was like a really fantastic writer, and so like we were saying, he wrote the Declaration of Independence. There was one other really important document that he wrote. It's slipping my mind. But he wrote the Constitution. Obviously, I know that. But like, yeah. So like, I think it was just maybe it was just the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. I can't quite recall, but probably more. But yeah. So there was those things that he wrote. So Thomas Jefferson came out. You have your John Adams. He was pretty important. John Quincy Adams, it was his son. Um, both pretty good presidents. People would say maybe that his son was a little better than the dad as far as presidents go. Um, uh, Thomas Jefferson was the third president. We're kind of fast forwarding, getting a little ahead of ourselves, but yeah. So the Revolutionary War happens. We win, just barely though. It was very close. Great Britain did not want to let go of the colonies at all, but had just fought like a couple expensive, had been fighting expensive battles before, expensive wars before the Revolutionary War, and so now they're like, this we're hemorrhaging money left and right. We gotta cut bait and run. So they withdraw from the continental United States, and we get to become our own nation, the United States of America. And I want to say that's when Thomas Jefferson writes the Constitution. So yeah, he gets the Constitution written out, and yeah, we're our own nation. We are a country officially. Um, not without it's posing its own challenges though. There was like I want to say it's like Shays Rebellion, which was after, and it was like just basically like the farmers. I think there was a Farmer Shea, whose name it was named after. He was like, he was like, you big government, big business types are walking all over us, little guys, little farmers, salty earth people. And so he kind of led a rebellion against the newly formed United States government, which was it was pretty quickly kind of stamped out. He just didn't have really the manpower behind him, and so the United States government kind of stamps out that rebellion, Shays Rebellion. Um, let's see. So yeah, we're tentatively a new nation, a new country, um, and we drafted this new idea called democracy, and democracy um, comes from some French philosophers, and we kind of take like Thomas Jefferson and you know John Adams and um, uh, George Washington, all the founding fathers, we call them the founding fathers, um, take the take the ideas from these French philosophers and kind of adopt it into this new thing called democracy. And well, the French philosophers kind of knew it as democracy, but it's like this new version of democracy that we kind of coin for ourselves. Um, and so yeah, like democracy is this new thing. Nobody knows what to think of it. It's like because for since the beginning of time, we've had basically one person or a small group of people make all the decisions for everyone. And so now all of a sudden we're saying, okay, scratch that, scratch the idea we've done forever since the beginning of time. We're going to let let everyone make the decisions based. Not it's a little more complicated than that, but in essence, it's like okay, now everyone has a voice. That's the idea. In reality, it looks more. It's more like okay, like the everyone votes, and then based on those votes, the electoral college makes their votes. But the idea is there. Like the idea is that everyone has a voice, and so everybody gets a voice now. So it's like whoa, like totally new, totally different, um, and um, yeah. So like America is this new budding nation with this whole new concept called democracy, um, and yeah, we have presidents now instead of kings and queens. So it's a democratically elected leader instead of the um, hierarchical something like that leaders like or the no longer is the position of leader um, determined by inheritance. Like, oh, that king dies, and then his son now takes over, or his daughter now takes over, or whoever is next in line takes over. Now it's one leader leads for much shorter period of time, and then when that short period of time is concludes, then we all get together and vote. And voting, that was a whole new idea. Like nobody, no, nobody had votes before. Like everyone, like basically in the old days, essentially like you, you made your kind of measly living doing this or that, and um, you you paid a lot of taxes. You paid heavy tax to a your your feudal lord or what have you, and um, you basically were paying the feudal lord, this guy who, just was there, like just got lucky and was born into the right position. Um, Basically, he or she, usually he, but we're past that now. But back then it was usually he. Like he would, you basically were paying for his protection and to live on his land and farm his land. So yeah, like that seems a little bit odd of a system to have, and so now in America we have the idea, well, so like the idea was that everyone was equal, and we know, we kind of, I mean, hopefully we know like that really wasn't the case. Like there were hundreds of millions of, I want to say hundreds of millions. I'm pretty sure hundreds of millions of African Americans who were enslaved and were working for no money in terrible conditions. Um, were slaves to you know Protestant white people, right? So yeah, messed up, terrible, awful part of history. It just, you think back and you just shudder, like at the idea of one human being just totally owning another human being's life, and it's like, wow, really, really makes you grateful to see how far we've come as far as like the thought process there, right? Like now we're, it's still, oh gosh, still not still terrible, but now we at least have, um, a, we're headed in the right direction, right? There's still a long way to go, but Abraham Lincoln, thanks, big guy. We thanks Al Al. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation and freed the slaves. But we also know like there's still Jim Crow laws and a lot of segregation and a lot of still terrible stuff for black people. But well, we've gotten rid of that too. We've gotten rid of that. So we've gotten rid of that too, and still, not to say that racism is completely gone from America. I think there's still a lot of very deep-seated ideas in people's heads of race and stuff like that, and color, and it's I truly pray that we come to come to a world where everyone has equal chance and opportunity. I think we're getting there. I think we're working on it. I think um, good shall prevail at the end of the day. I hope so. I pray. And yeah, so got on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah. Hope nobody in the comments gets mad at me, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. U.S. history. It's dark at times. It's light at times. It's everything. It's a part of what makes who we are today. Right. So, you know, um, I'm really grateful to be a part of it. Well, I'm grateful that the inspired, the smart people have we've realized kind of where we've gone wrong and are trying to right it. Um, but yeah, it's tough, I mean, and at least it kind of feels like we all are getting more of a voice, and still not perfect, but I feel like we're heading. It's still not perfect, but at least we're not. At least it's not as bad as it was, And um, I think I think we're getting there. I think democracy is just like amazing. It's really a good idea, and I guess what I'm getting at is like it's up to the individual to kind of think for themselves and to make the right choices. I mean, yeah, and it's hard for imagining like somebody who's just different skin color, like being their life being kind of persecuted, just on nothing to do with who they are, their actions, their decisions, just what they look like. You know, it's mind-boggling. Um, but yeah, we're not gonna go down. We're not gonna go too crazy here on F Train Live. We're definitely touched on some touchy subjects, so I'm not gonna stir the pot too much. They say. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was I think probably my favorite episode yet, because I just really I love talking about history with you guys, and I love um, the idea that you guys are hearing my thoughts and opinions about history and taking it into consideration. And yeah, feel free to correct me if I'm sure was wrong on some things. And um, yeah, just know I love everyone. I love all people of the world. I'm totally on the side of equality and unity and freedom of speech and expression. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a blast. F Train Live signing off.